Claudio Castognoli finally wins the World Championship. Also, a WWE main roster star has been moved to NXT. And of course, we got to talk about the AEW wrestler who has requested his release. There's a huge issue in AEW right now, and we are going to talk about it. First, we're going to kick things off with Commander Aziz. He has been moved to NXT. He was at the WWE NXT house show this past week in Florida, sporting a new look. Of course, different from the gimmick that he had with Apollo Crews. And this time he is accompanying Cora Jade. And honestly, I don't know if WWE is going to put this on TV, but I think this is a great idea. I think Commander Aziz needs a little bit more time and a little bit more experience before being put in a big position. And I think there's a lot of potential for the future of him in WWE. By having him work with Cora Jade as like a bodyguard figure, I think it just makes the most sense. Honestly, I think Cora Jade could also benefit from this because she's a very small wrestler. So having the contrast between her being smaller and Aziz being larger, I think it could actually make some good television. You know, her basically hiding and using him as a way to get wins in typical heel fashion. I think it's logical. I think it makes sense. And I think Cora Jade is absolutely a rock star. I think she was going to be a great babyface, and I think there's still potential for her to be a babyface. But I love this comparison Plana Productions did in a video. WWE secretly recreating history or reusing history, you know, and I see a lot of similarities between Cora Jade and Lita, and I think there's room for both, and I think this is really cool. I think WWE moving Aziz to NXT should be really good. I hope WWE puts this on TV sooner than later, and honestly, I hope this is kind of WWE's way of, you know, hey, just in case you're not successful on the main roster, or just in case there's not much going on in the main roster, we can put you back in NXT and try to do a couple different things until we find something that works for you. So ultimately, I like this, but now it is time to talk about Claudio Castognoli, aka Cesaro, finally winning the ROH Championship belt. Guys, I can't believe it. Truth be told, I think this was an excellent decision. He finally wins the big one. Now, granted, it's not the big one in AEW or the big one in WWE, but it's ROH, and Claudio obviously has history in ROH and was never able to successfully become the world champion. So this is great news. I've seen a lot of people reach out to me on Twitter and stuff. Hey, what are your thoughts on this? You know, I'm glad Tony Khan can respect Claudio's history as an in-ring performer and see that an opportunity is there for him. But now, I really believe AEW and ROH got to continue this momentum with Claudio, because we have seen people win the championship and then immediately right after they fall off. And I think the perfect example is Hangman Page and Thunder Rosa. Two people who have won the championships, and then immediately after, they're no longer the primary focus of the television show. Now, I don't know why you would have world champions for either gender and not make them one of the focuses of the show. And if you can't handle that criticism of AEW, look, maybe you shouldn't watch it, because like, I genuinely believe that Claudio is a great talent, and I believe Hangman Page is a great talent, and I think Thunder Rosa is a great talent. But when you have people win championships and then immediately right after they no longer feel like a big deal, that devalues your world championship belt. And truth be told, and I'm going to say truth be told a lot more, trust me, because I'm speaking the truth here, WWE makes the same exact mistake. WWE makes the same exact mistake. The only time where I feel like WWE hasn't made that mistake in recent history was Damian Priest, Theory, and Lashley winning the U.S. Championship, and Gunther most recently winning the Intercontinental Championship. But for years and years, it felt like every single time somebody won a championship belt, it really didn't mean much. And I feel like AEW is following very closely to what WWE has done, and I think that is a problem. I also genuinely believe that Claudio being ROH World Champion makes a lot of sense for the startup of ROH. However, Tony Khan has been very adamant about making sure people know that AEW and ROH will not be separated by these rosters. So Claudio could show up on AEW or ROH with the world title, and it's just the way it is. And ultimately, I don't know how I feel about that, because I think that right there is just, there's not enough TV time on AEW Dynamite to then put over another brand, which, by the way, ROH estimated 25,000 pay-per-view buys roughly. It's not the full number, but when you look at those numbers compared to AEW, it's just, why would you prioritize a brand that is not making money like AEW does? And I think that's a real concern for me. Now, I also want to make it very clear, I hope AEW, Tony Khan, ROH, however you look at it, I hope they bring some very good, valuable opponents for Claudio. I hope they start building up people because Claudio could have great matches. I don't think anybody will have an issue with that. But what's really interesting is Jonathan Gresham has requested his release from AEW ROH. In fact, there was a conversation that was said to have involved Gresham cussing out Tony Khan. That's right. This came from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, and he also mentioned that there seems to be a lack of communication between talent relations and talent that we've heard from. We've heard stories of Gresham, Marco Stunt, Brian Cage, Joey Janela, and others not being able to get answers or responses. I think everybody remembers my video where I talked about Chavo Guerrero infamously calling out Tony Khan for not responding and not getting back to him. And I get it. Tony Khan is a new wrestling promoter, but the way this guy tweets about his business and the way he tries to promote Rampage and the way he tweets about Vince McMahon and WWE and all of these different things, you would think communication, the easy thing, right? The easiest thing that you can succeed at in a business is communication. You can be a terrible booker, you can be a terrible promoter and not know exactly what you're doing as a new promoter. But as a billionaire who owns multiple successful businesses, if you do not know how to communicate to your talent or to your employees or to your roster or whatever it may be, then you are doomed to fail. And this is one of the biggest reasons why people have an issue with WWE, because people have said time and time again, with WWE, it was very, very difficult to go and communicate to Vince McMahon how you feel. And some people had the balls to do it and some people didn't. And you know, the thing is, communication fixes absolutely everything. John Gresham has barely been featured with AEW. They only put him on TV once they're trying to build up to the ROH pay-per-view. What's the point? Now, I think Tony Khan needs to fix this, and I think Tony Khan and AEW and ROH need to fix this as a whole. Because if there's communication issues, this will not be the last person to request their release. It is not very often where an AEW wrestler has requested their release. In fact, AEW doesn't even really do releases, but now this is going to be a real big test for Tony Khan because he talked a lot of stuff about WWE and people who requested their release and not being able to get out of their contracts and stuff like that. So to me, Tony Khan needs to do the right thing. John Gresham wants out. And you know what? That's a shame because John Gresham is one of the best people that he has signed to his roster. And, you know, him dropping the title belt is not a concern for me. It's okay. He held the belt. He unified it. He did a lot of great things. But you have Tully Blanchard Enterprises. Now that got bought out by the Embassy. And I'm just sitting here thinking like, they can do so many great things with Gresham. He's a freaking amazing talent. Yet, simple things like not being able to communicate or getting cussed out by your former world champion, that's a problem. And I'm sorry, we can't defend that. We can't defend it when WWE does it, and I sure as hell will not defend it when AEW does it. Let me know what you guys think down below.